Recorder.
It's recording for you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. We will call the County Commissioners meeting. This is September 18th meeting. We are in order. We have all three commissioners present. And this morning, we would ask you to stand. Lori Howard of the Grant County Chaplains Program will be praying for us. And we appreciate her joining us. After that, Mr. Wright will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Would you step up to the podium and lead us in prayer, please?
Feel free to join me in prayer. We pray this day for our world, our country, our county, and for our communities and families. We pray for those who are ill and who grieve. Lord, we pray for those who are unemployed, for those working to keep lights on, water clean, roads ready, as well as all our first responders. Lord, we pray for teachers and students adjusting to many changes. We pray for those at home that feel isolated and alone. We pray for empathy, kindness, and calm. We pray that we can care for each other with our communities at the forefront of our minds. Hear our prayer for wise and just decisions from our leaders in all government. Thank you for your mercy and grace. Amen.
Amen. Please join me in pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Thank you. Be seated. Chaplain Howard, thank you for being with us today.
You're welcome.
Yes, sir. All right. On our agenda, we are ready for approval of current minutes, claims, payroll, and with regard to invoice edit reports, we had a pre-approval on 9/11. The general batch was $91,783.20. Other batch was $15,419.12. Highway batch was $43,646.80 for a grand total of $150,849.12. That was again pre-approved, and we would need a motion to ratify that pre-approval.
I'll make that motion to ratify the pre-approval.
Second.
Motion with support. All those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it is carried. On today's invoice edit reports, we had the electronic copy sent to us last week, and the general batch is $266,756.40. Other batch, $102,083.36. Highway batch, $16,958.02 for a grand total of $385,797.78. And so this is a new invoice edit group. We would need to actually pay these bills.
Make a motion that we approve that, pay those as presented.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Stewart, second, Mr. Wright. Any questions on any of the? Hearing none. All those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it is carried. Now, with regard to some pre-approved claims, I don't see any singles. Is that right?
Correct.
All right, then we just have payroll number 19. And that was paid out last week on the 18th. The gross amount was $579,147.72. Pre-approval was given on the 13th, so we would need to ratify payroll 19 pre-approval.
I'll go ahead and make that motion that we payroll number 19.
Second.
Motion with support. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor would say aye.
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 Aye, it is carried. think that's it on our bills. Let's go to the board updates, and I do have an additional county treasurer's monthly report that we are to receive, month ending August 31st of this year. We have, I guess everybody has copies of that, and we would need to receive that.
Make a motion to receive the county treasurer's monthly report.
Second.
Motion with support. All those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It is carried. Under communication and board updates, we'll start with the auditor's office. Anything? Very good. We'll move around the room, other elected officials, special committees. All right. I see our dispatch coming up, and then we can do EMA after that if need be.
So 2 weeks ago, I was here and spoke about the MPX Solutions request for tower work inspection. I asked them for a scope of work and they have emailed that to me. I believe you guys should have a copy of that. It should be just
Is
an
that the email,
email
Kevin?
form. Yeah.
Email. Okay.
Couple questions.
Yes, sir.
So this is a one-time thing, Kevin,
It's every 2 years.
every 2 years.
Yes.
But we're
We're only doing it one time now.
only doing- So is there a contract?
No, there's not.
Should there be a contract?
That's up to you guys. I don't know.
I mean, you got us here, you know, I know it's the second time you're coming for stuff. You know, within the contract, usually there's things like liability and, you know, who's responsible for what and things like that. And without seeing a contract, I kind of, however, you've been, and I think it's something that we need to do. To me, this is preventive maintenance of what we're doing. Right. We should be doing these kind of things. I would be so inclined whenever chair is ready for a motion to go ahead and approve this pending our attorney taking a look at the contract. Okay, that makes sense. So those are my comments. Say second time in front of us. You guys have to do it.
Yep.
And I do think it's something that we definitely need to do, and that's why we keep things on track, and appreciate you. Pleasure doing this.
Was that a motion, Mr. Wright?
Well,
Or,
there's other comments.
no, I agree. I agree with you 100%. It'd be nice to have a contract that our council's looked over and given the blessing on. The email is informative, but I feel like there's some things that could possibly be missing. So, yeah. So I will second Mr. Wright's motion.
Yeah, so the motion would be to go ahead and accept the agreement with a company of Arson.
It's MPX. MPX
Yes. And to the tune of $2,000 per site to go ahead and review everything within the scope of the need of radio transmission. And this would be a one-time cost, $2,000 per tower, with the approval of our attorney taking a look at the contract.
And I second that motion pending council approval of the contract as well. Yeah.
And the contract would be signed by the president after the attorney.
Yep.
We would give him the
The authority.
authority to
Yep.
do that.
I agree.
Have a motion with support. Any other discussion or questions for Kevin? All right, hearing none. All those in favor would say aye.
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 Aye. It is
Thank you,
carried.
Chairman. Thank them, and we'll get to the roll.
Thanks for your work on this,
My pleasure.
because I think it's very needed. Thank you.
All right, let's go back. Anything from EMA today? Wow, okay. We got no fires, we got no bad weather, we got no pending pandemics headed our way. All right. I think we're ready to move to IT.
Nope, we don't have anything. We're good. What?
He's not smiling.
No,
He's
No, sir.
he's great. All right. Dave's already walking his way. He knows he's up.
Morning.
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 Update you on a few projects. We're working on Garth Wade and 38th Street, getting the community crossing roads done. Gas City did go ahead and pave their portion of their roadway. They'd like for us to pay for it and then they'll reimburse us in 2024. It's gonna be a little less. They kind of cut some corners a little bit. So it should be neighborhood of 30,000 or less. So, their engineer wanted to go ahead and go that route. So if we can pay that bill, we'll keep it separate from all of ours. So we'll have a separate invoice and everything, but that'll be done here in the next day or two on that. Got to get line striping and all that on here in the next week or so. So
I think I heard what you said, but let me repeat it just for Mark. They went ahead and did it and paid for it. They want us to pay them back for this year, and then next year they're gonna pay us back.
they went ahead and paved it, is what I say. To pave, not pay, like money.
So
Paved.
we're gonna go ahead and
We're going
we were going to take care of it this year, then they're gonna pay us.
Right.
next.
in
Okay.
2024.
Okay,
And I believe we talked about this at the last meeting, was the fact that if we did it all at once, it'd save us some money
Right.
for the company not having to bring the gear
Right.
to every time.
Thanks, sir.
And so they shouldn't have the funds to do that this year out of Gas City.
Right.
But it saved everybody some money for the county.
Okay.
So just clarifying.
That's the way I understood it as well.
thank you.
Yeah, we paved it, put mix down. That 500 bitter. So we got that, like I said, still working on those two projects. We worked with the area plan last week. We got a building down in Jonesboro. I was going to go to 500 East, but due to the fact they got court order and they wanted to kind of get it done before the river rally, I thought we better do that first. So that's why we went ahead and jumped on that, got that completed. I'm still working on a couple bridge projects. We got a bridge out on 1100 South, basically east of State Road 37, that we're looking at replacing. SJCA is doing the design work. Long story short, they were wanting to design a three-sided box. Everybody I've talked to says that they cost a lot of money to have it delivered because basically they're made off-site and then brought in, set with a crane. Everybody that I've talked to says that you'll have more money in doing that than you would just designing a simple slab bridge that they build right there. So if I do go the different route, we gotta pay additional money to have it designed, but I think in the long run, it probably will save us money kind of thing. I've talked to a couple contractors. They feel the same way that, there's a lot of money in getting stuff delivered that's already pre-built. So, I want to talk to another contractor, just get his opinion. But I might have to change our design work with SJCA and have them design a slab instead of a three-sided box. So,
Which bridge is that?
it's on 1100 South, just east of 37, almost about a mile away from it.
Okay.
So, looking at changing it, so. Still been talking to him on Branson Street, to Tanisha from BFS. A little bit about that and trying to see what there is out there for federal aid jobs and stuff like that. So I got a phone call with her set up this week. Talk to her some more on what NDOT's looking for and not looking for, et cetera. So see what our chances are. So like I said, my big thing is I don't want to put all that money out there and never get it kind of thing. So update you on that. I did talk to that gentleman about Bryan Drive or whatever it is off of
Okay.
500 piece, I called him this morning. I kind of updated him. You remember, Mark, that's just north of 100 South. It's an addition they built like in the mid-90s. And it was met the county specs, so we never took it into our inventory. And we went out and looked at it. It's in bad condition. I told the gentleman that, if he wanted to get it up to our specs, I imagine the county wouldn't have a problem with taking it into inventory, but right now he agreed with me, and he knew some other residents that lived out there, so he was going to see what they thought. And so I did talk to him on that. So
This was a call I had, concerning, roads, and they were wanting us to take it over. I knew we had done that up in, Indian Hills, was it? Or something like
no,
that?
we did the one north of 9. Oh, just north of the
Blue Heron.
Blue Heron. Okay.
Yes, we took that one in.
Yeah.
Yes.
And again, because of the condition it was in,
Right.
it was good condition and stuff,
Mhm.
but this isn't good condition.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No.
no. Okay.
No.
Very good.
So I did talk to him. He said he'd see
You
what-
understood?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you
Yep.
very much for checking in on that.
And I did talk to the gentleman that you gave me the phone call about, Mr. Ross or something that works with you.
Yes.
I did talk to him about his grandmother's driveway, so I told him we'd take care of that.
Good.
for him, so. That's all I have, unless you don't have. We're still working on paving and redoing some roads and stuff like that. We got one big culvert pipe we need to put in out at 800 South, but I had to take my excavator today to get it worked on, so probably be next week before we start on it. So
Paving wise, when do you kind of cut it off at the?
my motto is I don't like to pave in November.
Okay,
So
just in case we get asked.
yeah, I was gonna say one
Yep.
year I'll never forget. We paved like the 30th of October. Yes, we had to put our sanders and plows on and plow on Monday the 1st. So my motto is I want to be done by November at the latest.
Gotcha.
So
Okay, thank you.
yep, that's all I have unless you don't.
I'm good.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Oh yeah, Mark, if somebody did, you might have at the, drainage board. We had a company that was putting in fiber without open trenching it.
Yes, we did have a discussion about that.
Okay, I was gonna say, I went out and stopped them and, I guess, the drawings and everything had open trench on it, had certain spots that they were gonna bore it under the road or creek or something like that. And I'm like, it says right on the drawings. I don't know what else I gotta do I basically shut them down that day, so.
That was something we discussed. And again, I'm trying to remember in the ordinance, do we have the right to fine or just stop work?
I think just stop work.
Okay.
But, like I told them, basically I marked where they had done it already because I don't know what's in that area where they bored it, and that's why I told the guy that was doing it. I mean, I said, do you know what's out here? He goes, no, not really. And I said, well, that's why I'm stopping you. So yeah, just
I think we have that dialogue again because again, we are jeopardizing any other utilities that are there when people do not follow the ordinance in chaining that in. And maybe we need to revisit the whole concept of fines because what happens, as I understand it, is a contractor says, we're going to do this, and then they subcontract it to somebody that's not paying attention at all. And so we either need to hold the contractor and or the subcontractor responsible for their actions.
I go say that was the company that was doing the work was based out of Indianapolis. The company that got the permit was based out of, I'll say Kansas or somewhere like that. So they always get somebody else to do different stages of their project. And I think one thing, like you said, we also need to do a fine, but I think we also need to do when a start date and an end date is, because, for example, I signed this permit back in the middle of July. And so I really don't know when they're going to come out to install the product. So I really can't go out there. Luckily, a farmer out that way contacted me and I went out and looked at it otherwise. So.
So when it comes to a fine situation like that, who comes up with those fines? Is that an APC, Drainage Board, commissioners, who?
That, it's kind of, at one point, we had to do so much and then the county council had to agree to it.
Okay.
We'll check with our attorney and make sure that that's the appropriate measure, but it actually comes from us as to the ordinance on this side of things. So
Okay.
we'll do some more looking into that.
I think the last ordinance was wrote in 2017, I believe.
Last few years, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Right, we're going to old business and Melissa has an update for court services. Morning.
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 So I have a couple of updates around some of the grants that we are looking at this year. So when seeking approval for the application for pretrial services grant, when I presented the grants earlier this year, we had a discussion about the possibility of funding for pretrial to look similar to the past few years where they cap the benefits at 30% of the salary. And then there was some discussion around the commissioners continuing to commit to paying the 70% should it be funded in that same way. We actually received our official award Friday for the upcoming 2024 grant cycle. And so we wanted to be, one of the things that we talked about was being proactive should those cuts happen this past spring. We had that discussion. There was a commitment from the commissioners to continue to support that. So the funding that we got again this year was similar and a little different. So the total for our grant award for 24 is going to be $248,954. And this includes the salaries for 3 full-time probation officers, and then they capped the benefits at 30% and the stipend for the coordinator. So when we're looking at personnel, the funding for this particular grant is $216,000. And then they added us back in for training. So we got $2,000 for training. The past few years, they've zeroed those out in our applications. And then they also included $30,954 for public defenders to be compensated for their appearance for meaningful first appearances. So that's also up from $15,000 for the past couple of years. So we're seeing some increases there from the state's end, but they're still staying consistent with the 30% of salaries. So what we're looking at this year, the deficit for the remaining 70% of benefits is $51,167. And that's probably about $8,000 less than last year. So
What was that number again? I'm sorry.
$51,167.
So we've maintained our commitment at funding the 70% and it's actually down a little bit. So that's nice.
Yeah. So we received this award, so I will be just making sure that commitment's still consistent with the commissioners. I'll be presenting it this Wednesday for the council. So just kind of going through these channels to make sure we're all on the same page.
We're there, we're good.
And that's within our budget,
Mhm.
correct?
Good job.
Thank you. Then I wanted to let you know about we currently have a BJA, Bureau of Justice Assistance grant that's originally was a 3-year grant for the drug court program. It was an enhancement grant, which allowed us to increase capacity for the drug court program. It also required that we hired a 3rd probation officer assigned to that program to manage the extra caseload. That was set to expire September 30th of this year. We applied for and received what's called a no-cost extension. So it will take us another year. So that the extension will go through September 30th of 24. This extension allows us an additional year to really pursue our grant objectives. The funding for the no-cost extension for 24, well, it's the federal fiscal year. So from October 1st of this year through September of 24 is $156,719. That pays for the salary and benefits for the full-time drug court probation officer position, contract work for inpatient treatment, coordination, transportation, program evaluation, and training and monthly recovery community activities. So the grant parameters are the same. They've just allowed us to extend that. We received it in 2020, and so it was a slow start. So they have allowed us to continue to utilize those funds to reach our objectives. So this position, the drug court position, is also the same position that the work group for the opioid settlement funds agreed to request an appropriation for and was supported by the commissioners. And it was presented before the council a couple of months ago, but because there was no action needed at that time, because we had the grant, this portion of the funding was not addressed. Specifically, they allocated funds for a treatment coordinator position, which was the second position that the commissioners supported for the opioid settlement funds.
Mhm.
This is the other position. Now we have a date for the end of these funds, so I've requested this to discuss the additional appropriation this Wednesday night for October 1st through the end of the year for this position to help continue the objectives that we started out with. So that hasn't changed. It's the same two positions we talked about for the opioid settlement funds. But just making you aware that that also is going to be part of the conversation on Wednesday night with the council.
And again, we would affirm that we haven't changed our position at all.
Okay. And then the last one that I have is we received notice that the problem solving court grant applications for 2024 are open. These grants have historically been capped at $10,000, and we've been fortunate to receive these funds for multiple years in all of our problem solving courts. We plan to apply for these again for all of the existing problem solving courts. These reports are done on an annual basis, so we have to apply for them every year. But in receiving the application and reviewing it a little bit more, looking at the application, looking at the allowable cost, it states that the priority of funding, of consideration for the funding, is to go to mental health courts and courts that are not currently receiving Indiana Office of Court Services grant funds. So the things that we're looking at would be personnel, which is salary and benefits, incentive, drug testing, training, program evaluation, and additional supports that programs need for client services. All of those are allowable costs. So when I'm looking at those things, I believe this is an opportunity for us to apply for this grant as an implementation grant to start a mental health court. So for the past 2 years, Court Services has asked for a mental health case manager assigned in the reentry court program. But because the Indiana Department of Corrections is not funding new initiatives, we haven't been awarded that extra position. We're also looking at other possibilities with community partners. Haven't really heard anything about those. So because the application allows for the specific designation for courts that are in the planning stages, it doesn't have to be fully operational. I believe that this could be an opportunity for us to really pursue that implementation when we look at mental health courts. Not sure that that's exactly what they're looking for, but in kind of reading through some of the things that they have out there, I think it would be a good opportunity for us to pursue it and see what happens. The grants are due October 2nd. So we have a pretty quick turnaround. The funding areas I think that we would focus on would allow us to hire a mental health court coordinator, a small stipend for the grant manager, to do the grant reporting and other responsibilities that would need to happen. Purchase incentives that are required and necessary for all problem-solving court models, drug testing, and additional participant services. So a rough estimate of kind of our proposal would be around $121,831, but it could change a little if we actually work with and contract for program evaluation. So I didn't want to get too far down that road and start asking questions until bringing it here and making sure that's something that the commissioners are interested in us pursuing.
Mental health is definitely a situation we have, and sounds like grant funds are available for that. Is it a 1 year?
These are all 1-year grants. So I'm not sure about continuation without talking to them directly and asking. Sometimes you don't get a clear answer. The pretrial services grant that I talked about, we've received for multiple years. It's also an annual grant. So
My assumption is that the judicial side of things is pleased with that opportunity to open up a mental
yes.
health court.
Yes. So we've had conversations about that with the judges. Judge Todd is very interested in overseeing that particular problem-solving court model. He also does the reentry court, so he's seeing mental health needs across the board. When we look at just kind of some data, there was a study back in 1999, so this is 24 years ago, by the Department of Justice, and it said the prevalence of mental illness is 3 to 4 times higher for inmates in jails and prisons than general population. And amongst half of those with mental illness are incarcerated for nonviolent crimes. That's what mental health courts are designed to really focus on. What we know is if we don't take care of a need, it doesn't get better. And so that's 24 years ago. So I would be curious to see where we're at now, since we haven't really had the ability to target that population.
Do you have any problem finding people with these kinds of skill sets to fill these positions?
So one of the things that we asked for in this grant, why it's a little bit higher on personnel, is we're requesting the ability to hire somebody who has around 5 years experience working with the justice involved population as a probation officer, so they understand the complexities of the criminal justice side and are willing to look at how does that intersect with people with mental illness. So we're looking at not trying to hire somebody with 0 years experience, trying to learn both parts of the puzzle, but really saying we are looking at an opportunity to just build on somebody's skill set that's already established as a probation officer.
And my next question would be this implementation case manager that you're mentioning, would that person work with people who are already incarcerated, or is this new people coming in? Tell me a little bit about
So
that.
the mental health court model is much smaller caseloads because of the complexities of the cases.
Okay.
They require a lot of time to coordinate care. So we would have to, because it's implementation, we would have to gather all the community partners and stakeholders and say, this is the grant. How do we collaborate really well? Because if we don't collaborate with our community partners and stakeholders, we won't have a very good program. So the referral process and the eligibility process will be part of that collaboration plan of saying, for our treatment providers, what's the best way to identify who's the appropriate targeted population? And how do we do assessments to get them to these programs? How do we take referrals? So there are like 10 key questions that we have to answer, components that we have to answer during the implementation stage of a mental health court. So it kind of lays out the questions we really need to ask and get answered. So it's really, I would hate to say this is how it will work
Right.
because I'm one person.
Yeah.
And I think the treatment providers are probably going to have the best feel for identification, where to start that process. Now, if it's similar to some of our other problem solving courts, those assessments can happen within the jail. We have the ability to do video assessments and interviews and things like that. We do that frequently with our drug court program. So we can do those assessments while they're still sitting in jail.
The only reason I'm bringing that up is with our overcrowding in the jail, it sounds to me like this could be a help in that area. And that's why I wanted to make sure I'm understanding exactly. You deal with it every day. I don't deal with it every day. And so, but it does sound like it's something that can really help us out in the long run.
Yeah. So it's, when you look at the complexities around the mental health services that are needed, this is one component of part of the solution. And there's a lot of other things that have to happen as well. But I think there are some good things happening with some of our community partners that would help us really take a targeted approach to how to best serve that population.
Thank you.
Anything else we can do for you?
So we just, because this is a new grant, looking for a recommendation from the commissioners as to whether or not proceed to apply for the grant for the mental health court.
You consent for that, or you need?
As the executives, and we're actually authorizing the application of a new grant, we should have that in the form of a motion.
I would make the motion that we go ahead and seek the grant for the implementation of a case manager, correct? Is that the one?
It would be an implementation for a mental health court, which would pay for a coordinator, yes. So
That is my motion.
it would pay for other things as well, potentially.
Second.
Have a motion, Mr. Wright, second, Mr. Stewart. Any other discussion, questions for Melissa? Hearing none, all those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it's carried.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
luck
you.
getting your
Thank you.
grant. Thank you. And thanks for looking for grants. Thank you very much.
All right. We've already taken care of the tower inspection services. Are you aware of other old business that we need to? All right, going to new business. I see the sheriff is with us. He has a proposal for the this Eastbrook.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning.
You should have a copy of the MOU with Eastbrook. If you notice, there was a minute on the 23rd. We're just now getting it to you. As we were reviewing it, we noticed that Eastbrook was only paying for 6 hours of our SRO that we have in the school. So we had an opportunity to meet with the superintendent and talking with the SRO, and with him, he actually works 8 hours. So we had to get that changed. So Eastbrook will actually be paying us more money for that position. So basically, we just need your approval to move ahead with this. He is currently out there. We've had an SRO at Eastbrook for several years, so nothing's really changed other than that item. We had that change from 6 hours to 8 hours.
Ready to approve the memorandum of understanding with Eastbrook Community Schools?
I'll make that motion to approve Eastbrook Community Schools MOU.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Stewart, second, Mr. Wright. Any other questions, comments?
No, sir.
As I've heard the sheriff say, or any sly remarks? Hearing
You
none,
never know.
all those in favor would say aye.
Aye.
Aye, it is carried.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thanks, Sheriff.
We have a blood donation host request, Megan Borgman.
So I wanted to give you guys an update on where we're at for the year, just to something to be proud of as you guys close out the third quarter or fourth quarter. So the next blood drive here is on November 15th. Park the bus at the bank across the street. So far, you guys have collected 16 units at each blood drive, which is 64 units total, which equates to I didn't do the math on that. So my challenge to everybody is to collect, that's 85 units total. So my challenge is if we can collect 21 units at the next blood drive on November 15th, which for us is a high need time because of Thanksgiving. So we'll see a huge decline in donations the week of Thanksgiving. People are busy. They're visiting families. They don't think to donate. But unfortunately, the need for blood doesn't take a break. So if we can collect 21 units at the next blood drive on November 15th, will impact Grant County. This blood drive would have impacted 255 lives. So pretty big impact. And then my request is for 2024 to kind of continue being an awesome, life-saving, positive partner to us and propose 5 blood drive dates. They mirror what we did this year. So as far as time frame, we've got January 24th, March 21st, June 6th, August 15th, and November 13th. Again, we'll work with Star Financial to get parking. The main thing is just having you guys back us and say, this is something that Grant County supports and promotes, helps us get more attendance, and obviously letting county employees donate. So that is my request.
So we've had a report and also a request for 2024 dates. You have questions?
None from me.
Great work.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you
good
guys,
job.
really. 16 units is a lot. The average blood drive brings in about 15 units of blood. So 16 units is a lot. So we appreciate it.
You want to, by consent, agree to those 2024 dates?
Yes.
All right,
Awesome.
by common
Thank
consent.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Next up, letter of engagement. We have a copy of KSM's scope of script services. We've been talking about continued analysis on what can and can't be done with regard to jail-related cost. And so as we've been discussing, we have a scope of services agreement here with KSM. Scope would represent comprehensive physical planning, coordinating and reconciling jail-related costs with the county's general budget, identifying future revenue sources, coordination of financial information to fund operations for the jail, consider total cost of a project, whether that's, again, in-house or a new type of setting, and overseeing operational progress if we go that far, as the administration fees. And it'd be my recommendation that we move forward, continuing to analyze what needs to be done with the jail services.
And this is you addressing the ARPA after.
Yeah, that's a separate issue.
Okay. I will, I'll make a motion that we approve KSM. The scope of services being assisting us with the jail project.
Second.
Motion with support. Any discussion on that? Hearing none. All those in favor would say aye.
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 Aye, it is carried. With regard to KSM, we formerly had London Whitty assisting us, Jim Wiggins, and that was a separate contract so that he could direct us regarding ARPA funds and what they could and could not be used for. Because of unresponsiveness, we terminated that agreement. KSM has also said that they would be happy to talk to us about ARPA funds. My question, again, I had mentioned it before, they're looking at a $25,000 management agreement. Those funds can be taken from ARPA funds. The question is, how do we recapture funds that have not been used in the previous agreement? I'm just looking for your thoughts here, gentlemen, because I don't know if we pull that trigger first or we even do a rescission of the commitment that we had on our ARPA spending program for the taking back those funds. I just don't know what to do on that.
So here's my thought on it. I think we're in agreement that we want to use KSM to advise us on the ARPA funds. Their fee is 25,000, which we can take out of that. So me personally, I would be in favor of approving this. And then we figure out the 20,000. I don't know that we want to hold this up
No,
for that. Because that is money that is due to us. But we haven't spent it.
correct.
So I think my question, and maybe our auditor can help us out. I think it's more of a bookkeeping thing, I would think.
Is it? I guess I don't understand what you're asking.
So the question was, we had a contract with
The one-
another, yes. And so that was for $25,000,
Not to exceed 25.
not to exceed 25. So have we, I guess my question would be.
We spent 5.
Did we spend 5? We spent 5. Okay, so the question becomes, we've terminated that contract with London Witty.
Correct.
Okay, and so the question becomes, now this company is wanting 25,000, and rightfully so, because it's the same scope of work. How do we go about the other $5,000 to go ahead and take care of? Am I explaining that correctly?
Because we've allocated 25 to this other company, we spent 5. So there's a difference there of 20,000 that we haven't used yet.
Have we done an additional appropriation for this?
I don't think we did.
We should probably do that so that we could actually spend that money.
I don't think anything was set aside
I think we need
Nope.
to go through the,
in the plain book.
We paid the 5,000.
I think that was split between actually 4,000 and some odd dollars were from the council. And then we ended up paying, the commissioners ended up paying for,
yeah, and it's supposed to come out of ARPA money. So,
So what we need to do is just do an additional appropriation, correct those transfers or correct those payments and move that 5,000 payment to ARPA and then add another 25,000 to it. So we're gonna appropriate 30 total.
okay.
Make sense?
yeah, essentially. yeah.
That makes sense to me, yeah.
So we just need to do it for it's too late for October. No, okay. We can do it for the
October, yeah.
Good.
No way we can do it this week. No, no.
We can do it for the October.
So does that make sense? What the auditor's recommending?
It does to me.
Okay.
Yep.
I would entertain a motion if you're ready, because we're committing $30,000 out of ARPA funds for this process. And then technically, separately, we would need to adopt this proposal as well, 2 separate issues.
Okay.
Yep. So I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve KSM second time for the scope of services on this being to assist Grant County providing program management services related to ARPA.
Okay.
For 25,000, not to exceed.
Not to exceed 25,000.
I'll
Okay.
second that.
Motion with support to approve the agreement with KSM, not to exceed 25,000. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor would say aye.
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 Aye. And then we would need to do a vote on the $30,000 that we need to draw from ARPA for this project.
So I would make a motion that we spend up to $30,000 of ARPA money to help out with the scope of services through KSM.
I second Mr. Wright's motion.
Motion with support, excuse me. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor would say aye.
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 Aye, it is carried. Last but not least, again, on our continued study, we have a presentation of a build, operate, transfer contract. This is a contract for Grant County build, operate, transfer jail project attorney who will be doing research and work on our behalf to tell us what, again, we can and can't do. So this is outside the scope of what our attorney is comfortable with. He's never done BOT work. It's fairly new and an option for the counties to do. So we're going to somebody that has that experience and knows how to answer questions for us. And it would be my recommendation that we go into a contractual agreement with Mr. Patrick Connor Sullivan.
So just a clarification for people, so they understand what a build, operate, transfer jail project is, and make sure I'm correct with it, is the fact that a company will go ahead and take the burden, if you will, of the cost that is associated, whatever comes out of, and we take a look at what we can bear as far as tax paying, and then they oversee that. But the reason for the build, operate, transfer is to make sure that the dollar that we're given, it does not exceed that dollar unless we want other things done with outside the scope of the original contract.
That's
Is that
correct.
correct?
And we currently are using Mr. Sullivan for the BOT project of the chiller boilers for this building and the jail. They service both. And so he has been helping us to save money in that particular area as well. Again, we are not, by signing with this contract, saying we are building the jail.
Right.
This is all research and structure we have to know before we can ever come to that, wrestle with that big issue.
Right.
Is that fair?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
And this one is not to exceed 20,000.
Mhm.
Is ARPA in consideration for that?
Or
Or is that up to KSM to advise?
I would say that we need some help with the attorneys on that. The unique thing is the United States Senate did make a ceiling for any municipality, county, any group that received ARPA funds, that we could actually designate up to $10 million as loss recovery funds, which can be used a whole lot easier than the funds that we're going to say is just for tourism, or it's just for a water project, or it's just for a couple of the other things that were required. So if that's in those protected funds, then we may have leeway that we can use these types of funds for that type of project. But again, we need the attorneys to help us unmuddy that water and make sure that we can proceed with that. Long story short, we'll have to wait and find out.
I will go ahead and make the motion that we approve Mr. Sullivan as our BOT attorney and his compensation to not exceed $20,000.
Second that.
Right, we have a motion with support. You have further discussion, comments? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of the attorney-client relationship as proposed with this agreement with Patrick Connor Sullivan would say aye.
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 Aye. It is carried. Right. Got a lot of things in here. Did we miss anything in the packet? I think we're good.
Nope.
Right. All right. We are preparing to go to public comment. And at this time, the public is invited to speak before the board. Please approach the podium when recognized by the president, stating your name, address, concerns, or comments. Excuse me. No complaints, accusations, name calling regarding personnel can be allowed during this public discussion time. A limit of 3 minutes will be given. If more than one person is represented for a group, only one spokesperson will be heard. It's expected that professionalism and courtesy is displayed at all times during public comment portion of the meeting. We will go to those on WebEx first. Anyone on WebEx wishing to make public comment? Seeing no movement there. Anyone in the room wishing to speak to the Board of Commissioners? Chair recognizes Mr. Brankel.
think you all know me, Myron Brankel, 5450 East, 550 North, Van Buren. Former member of the County Council, Area Plan, Soil and Water Conservation Board for 15 years as president. Have just a simple question for the commissioners. Will you commit to not take any campaign donations from solar developers, architects, developers, contractors wishing to build new jail or any other county solar?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch the scope of all that. You were making a list of what?
Yeah, the first statement is, will you commit not to take any campaign donations from solar developers, architects, developers, contractors wishing to build new jail or any other county offices? I mean, it's just a yes or no.
Well, I think that's a political question that probably we need to talk with council about before we'd ever make a statement like that.
To what council?
Any lawyer that'll talk to me.
So you want time to think about that?
I think that this is not a political, this is a public meeting right now. You're asking about a political campaign that I don't know that either one of us have fully acknowledged nor filed paperwork with right now. And so that's kind of out of the scope of this particular meeting setting. So I can't answer that question right now.
Well, the reason I'm asking it is from attending last week's meeting on the jail construction and everything that was brought up. I mean, isn't that a fair question to ask the commissioners? I mean, we can't have the commissioners to come to our a public meeting or call a public meeting and have an open meeting with the public. So we need, I think it's a fair question.
I understand it's a question and I will be happy to answer that after I've talked to an attorney, because you're asking me to make a promise about a campaign that technically I'm not in yet. And so I just think it's out of the scope of the discussion right now, Myron, but I'll be glad to answer that at a later time when we're not in a public meeting that, we're not dealing with campaigns in this public meeting.
This is not a campaign.
It's a campaign question. So,
Oh, I don't think it's campaign question. It's a commissioner question about construction of new facilities and also solar.
maybe I'm not understanding that you're asking us if we're going to take kickbacks.
I'm saying, as being on the county council, area plan, and soil and water for 15 years, I know what happens when there's buildings and construction going on. About what you're faced with, people that come to you and say, hey, you know, you help me and we'll help you.
So I'll take that one just a second.
Sure.
I can tell you that on solar, I've already let anybody know that I am not going to take any money from any solar company.
Okay,
I'm not going to do that. That is my word. It's an integrity.
thank you.
Okay. I will not do that. It'd be interesting to see how much money goes into other campaigns from those people who are against solar. So I'll be watching that. I've already said that I will not accept any money when it comes to solar. In fact, I had a meeting with some of them and stuff. I bought the pie because I'm not going to accept any type of what would be considered bribery when it comes to solar. I'm not going to do it. So I can tell you honestly, I will not do that.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah. And so, you know, you two gentlemen, Mr. Stewart, Mr. Bardley, you need time to think about this and talk to legal counsel and.
Well, I'll tell you right now, Myron, that I am not taking kickbacks. I'm not taking any type of influence money. I've never done that in my political career, and I don't think you did either.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of standard. We don't do that.
Yeah, I believe you. What I'm saying, if it is presented in the future, you know, with what's going on with the buildings here, solar and everything.
I will not see any type of solar money at all. That's for sure. I have no interaction with the solar companies at this point. So,
Okay, but along with that, what about the gentlemen that were here Wednesday evening? Architects, developers, contractors. I mean, as we move on from this, it was said at the meeting that we'll have another meeting with the county council and the commissioner.
we will have lots of meetings. Yes, sir.
Okay. But I mean, it's very normal. I've been in this county and on the county council and other boards, and I know what can happen, you know, to get things done. But I'm just asking for, like Steve, integrity, if you can commit to us as citizens, you know, not necessarily for one project over the other, that you will be upright and honest and say, we can't be bought.
Appreciate your comments.
Mhm. So you need time to think about that, Ron and Mark?
Myron, I'm not running again for another 3.5 years. I have no idea what I'm doing. So, I'm on your side with the solar, so I can't imagine the solar company's gonna come and talk to me about it. I'm against it. So,
Okay,
yeah,
thank you. I appreciate that.
I think I've been clear about that,
Yeah.
you know, up front from day one, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got 2 against 1, so,
I don't think anybody's against anybody in the room, and
it's not a competition, you know.
as a matter of,
I know.
as a matter of fact, you know that any donations that come in have to be noted to, on a campaign report. So I think you you just hawkeye my campaign report and go from there.
Well, it can be different things than donations, you know.
I really appreciate your probing, Myron, but we've gone over the 3-minute allotted. So I think we're done with this.
Yeah, okay. We've got two answers and one question. Thank you.
Thank you. Jackie, join us.
Yes, Jackie Sheets, Southern Grant County. Okay, on your jail issues, do you know how many people are in there for misdemeanor charges that could probably be released on home detention that, you know, that could relieve some of the pressure of how many people you have in your jail?
That's
not us, is it?
That's not us. The big thing is we do have home detention program going, and a detention officer can only manage so many people.
Right.
And part of that is bringing Melissa back in here to say how many people they could have, but they actually would have to employ more individuals to do any type of a home detention program.
Okay. And then I was not able to come to the meeting on Wednesday, but I know in the past that you have discussed about building the new building, but the location that you thought about would be, it would go under Gas City jurisdiction. And if that would happen, then that means that you guys would have to give up the county seat and it would go to Gas City. That was mentioned a few months ago. So is that something you're still considering, giving up the county seat if it should be built in Gas City jurisdiction?
The county seat follows the courts. If we were to move everything out to that location on Garthwaite Road, then we would have to go through a process. And actually, the legislature would have to wrestle with that and decide if they were going to change the name of the county seat or not. The folks in the past had purchased that area with the thought of putting the jail out there. The greatest problem we have is if we continue to have two separate campuses, transportation and officer safety and inmate safety in transporting back and forth becomes the issue. So if we rehab down here, that's one thing. We're still here. If we have to relocate a jail somewhere else in the future, that presents the whole issue of, do we take the courts out to wherever that is and make another campus there? Those are questions that are still being answered.
Yeah. Well, my advice is to put your investments into the buildings that you already have, because we're going to have these buildings here anyway. If you don't, you're going to tear them down and build a parking lot. And we have a lot of that space already. So I hope that you consider just investing in the buildings that you have.
Appreciate that.
Mhm.
And I was going to tell you later, but Jackie, I appreciate your faithfulness because I get emails from you almost every week. I do appreciate your steadfastness.
Okay, thank you.
All right, anyone else? Just checking, I believe our next scheduled regular session is October 2nd. Is that correct, gentlemen?
That's correct.
All right. Hearing none other, we will declare ourselves in recess till October 2nd. Thank you.
Signature.